So what's going on, guys? I'm Black Ops Amazing. Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be taking a look at a bunch of questions that Treyarch have answered to do with Black Ops Cold War Zombies, Easter eggs, new content, a load of interesting answers that they've given in an interview between them and IGN. If you want to check this article out for yourself, I will link it down in the description. But as always, if you're going to enjoy today's video, don't forget to drop a like rating, make sure you are subscribed, but let's get into it. Here we go, and enjoy. This interview was posted on the 25th of February, so it was in the run-up to Season 2 for Black Ops Cold War, along with Warzone. But Treyarch spoke to IGN regarding zombies, speaking on things such as Easter eggs, to the ongoing and somewhat convoluted story, as well as the new Outbreak mode. So one of the first things that Treyarch was asked was in regard to Easter eggs in Cold War Zombies. IGN says, one of the concerns Call of Duty zombie players have had with the cooperative mode in recent times are its Easter eggs and how to accomplish them. These usually enrich the overall story of Call of Duty Zombies and are sought after by the community. We wondered if Treyarch would use Season 2 to change how Easter eggs worked. And Treyarch replied, on this project, we've made it our mission to make Easter eggs more accessible, or what we call the main quest. There are some side Easter eggs that are still somewhat obscure and you'll have to find, but for the main quest, we just wanted more players to experience it. If you've played Cold War Zombies and any of the other Treyarch Zombies games before that, be it BO4, 3, 2, 1, even World at War, you will notice a massive difference in difficulty, I guess you could call it, between Easter eggs in Cold War Zombies and any of the other games. It is a lot easier to solve not only the main quest but the side Easter eggs as well in Cold War Zombies compared to the others. And the main reason for this is we are told what to do. If my memory serves me correctly, so far with the two main quests we have in Firebase C and D Machine, they've only taken 2 to 3 hours to solve, whereas the main Easter eggs in BO4, 3, 2 sometimes can take 5, 6, 7 hours a day, even longer. And it was because we weren't told what to do. Some of the steps could take ages to find, whereas in this game, most of the time, we are told what the next step is. Normally that's through character quotes. For example, in Firebase C, Dr. Peck pretty much tells us exactly what we need to do, so does Revanov. In D Machine, it was Weaver and the other scientists telling us what to do. I'd say that Easter egg was a little bit more obscure than Firebase C, but still very easy to solve. Some people like that, some people don't. I suppose it depends on how good you are at solving Easter eggs. But whether you like it or not, there is a big reason as to why Treyarch have made it much easier. And that's because less than 2% of Zombies players complete the Easter eggs. Treyarch want to ensure more players experience all of what Zombies has to offer, so if the game walks them through it and makes it easier, there's a higher chance that more players are going to do the Easter eggs for themselves. They continued on to say, so much development time goes into these things, and if you look at the metrics, less than 2% of players were actually seeing that stuff unless it was shown to them on YouTube. He says, if you look at YouTube now or Reddit, a lot of people are completing their first Easter eggs ever, and they've been with the franchise for the full 10, 12 years. And that's very true. I have noticed in the comment section of videos, like he says, on Reddit, a lot of people have been saying this is the first Easter egg they've completed. One, not only because the steps are a lot easier, but also they can solve it for themselves. I can totally understand where they're coming from. You can imagine all of the hours and hard work they put into these Easter eggs, and if less than 2% of people who are playing the game actually complete them. Imagine you working on something for hours, days, and then less than 2% of people actually see it. It probably wouldn't feel very motivating, or you'd feel like you're wasting your time. So I can totally get where they're coming from. In order to get more people doing the Easter egg for themselves, they have to make it easier to follow and finish. The Treyarch developer who gave this interview has actually been working on Call of Duty for the last 16 years, and he's been the creative director on Zombies since it first began back in World at War. So he's been a part of Zombies since the very beginning, and he says this is a step in the right direction. He loves seeing the first round 100, the first round 50, so yes, they've definitely made it a priority to make Easter eggs less obscure and make sure the steps make sense with the narrative. They're still challenging, but they're not crazy hard like they used to be. You can also agree on that. Some of the Easter eggs in the past have been very difficult. If we're talking about Easter eggs that can just be a bit annoying, for me, I'd have to talk about Blood of the Dead. But then we have had pretty easy Easter eggs. Say, Mob of the Dead, Ascension, that was actually the first main Easter egg we ever had. So yeah, they've not all been difficult in the past, but they were a lot harder than they are now. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments. Do you prefer Treyarch's new take in Cold War where they pretty much walk you through it? Do you think they're still too difficult? Or would you like them to be harder, like they used to be? In the next part of the interview, they spoke about the Black Ops lore. IGN said, Season 2 appears to step things up a notch with the return of fan favourites like Samantha Maxis as a playable character in Black Ops Cold War Zombies and as an operator in Warzone. We had to ask how Treyarch decides on what story beats to focus on and which characters to surface from its long-running history. And Treyarch replied, I think the thing that's really important is that the previous incarnations, which we call the Ether story, which involved Richtofen and all those characters, that came to a definite end at the end of Black Ops 4's season, and we were passionate about not rewriting his story. One of the things I said is that those characters did what they did to try and create a singular world where zombies didn't exist, and unfortunately, because of the experiments in World War II, they were only half right. This is no longer a time-travelling, multi-dimensional story, this is grounded in Cold War. That said, however, there's a clear continuity between Black Ops 4 and the current events in Zombies. At the end of the BO4 storyline, we had two clear characters that needed to be referenced going forward, and that was Maxis and Edward Richtofen, the young versions of them both. So we have shown people what Maxis is up to, any other characters that might reappear will be dealt with in later seasons. There is a lot of very interesting information in there. The first thing where they give us a little more clarity, I guess we already knew. Deep down we didn't want to believe it though. But those characters of Richtofen, Takeo, Nikolai and Dempsey, the Primus crew, the Ultimus crew, the Transit crew, all of the characters that were involved in the previous Ether storyline, apart from Samantha and Eddie, who we know are still alive and are a part of our Cold War Zombie storyline. We've seen Samantha, we just haven't seen Eddie yet. But as for Richtofen and the crew, Takeo, Nikolai and Dempsey, their story has come to a definite end. We're not going to see them again. I will say it's a little bit weird how Craig Houston says that Richtofen's stories come to an end, but we also know that Eddie is Richtofen, just a younger version. If he didn't mention Eddie in this interview, then from that first part I'd say, well, are we even going to see Eddie? But at the end he does mention, so far we've seen only Samantha Maxis, but any other character that might reappear will be dealt with in later seasons. We are yet to see where Eddie is. He exists in this Cold War universe, but we haven't seen him yet. And the last thing he says regarding the lore is, we're also taking Weaver from the campaign. I think that another thing we look to do is how we can look to bring it closer to some of the Black Ops lore, which was really interesting and it got us excited to be able to do that. We'll always look for opportunities to connect our universe where it makes sense. We've now seen in Cold War Zombies, the campaign universe and the Zombies universe become one. It kind of did in our old Ether story. The campaign characters were involved in Zombies, but the universes were totally separate, whereas now it seems like they are one, which explains why we are seeing campaign characters such as Weaver, Kravchenko, and other people later on down the line become involved in the zombie story. For the final part of this interview, they speak on our new mode, Outbreak. IGN says, story beats aren't the only new part of Zombies content in Season 2. There are fresh modes like Outbreak, and certain new aspects to zombies like crystal types and Frenzied Guard can impact game balance. We asked how Treyarch manages to keep things fun while ensuring it remains challenging. And Treyarch replied, it was a challenging problem filling a vast space with some of our technical limitations, so what we ended up doing was the idea of hot zones, where we've populated enemies throughout large spaces, and as you engage those pockets, more spawn around you. So sometimes if you start combat far away from you, you can just snipe a couple of zombies and that's it. But if you go into that area and you engage the group, suddenly there could be 15 or 20 more zombies that spawn around you. So you get caught off guard and feel like you've almost sprung a trap. For some members of Treyarch, Outbreak feels like a culmination of all of the studio's efforts since the early days of Zombies. This is something we've always wanted to do as a studio, like we've talked about this since around Black Ops. This scale of Zombies experience, but the technology hasn't been there for us to be able to deliver this, and we're just very grateful that this moment in time allowed us to see this thing come to life. It's a mode that will appeal to casual players that are new to Zombies, but is also compelling for hardcore players. So that was the full interview between Treyarch and IGN. Of course this came out before Outbreak, so they don't really go into too much detail, but they pretty much tell us that this is a mode they've wanted to do since the very beginning. They couldn't due to hardware limitations of the old consoles. I think the closest they ever came was Transit. You can kind of see from that map what they were trying to do to get more of an open world Zombies, but it never really worked, not how they wanted it to. So there we go. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section below. As always, hopefully you have enjoyed the video. If you have, you know what to do. Drop a like rating, make sure you are subscribed, and I will see you all in the next video. Until then, goodbye.